welcome to Dalma Makes. In this video I'll show you how I decorated this box with scraps and broken things. The base of this project is an oval pine box with some hinges and a simple clasp. I started base coating with brown, but I changed my mind and chose white instead. I used acrylic paint for this, and I gave everything a very thorough base coat. I used a nice opaque white, but I still had to do about 3 coats, I think. One of the main reasons I like to work from dark to light is because of the much easier coverage. I usually remove the hinges and findings, but this time I decided to paint them as well, as I didn't want the original color. Of course, I give the paint time to dry thoroughly between the coats. But as I said, I think I did about 3 for full coverage. For the side of the box, I wanted to add some texture, so I used this mesh material. I only had this one piece of it, so I had to sort of make it stretch to cover everything I wanted. Thankfully, there was just enough of it with a little bit of leftover to cover all the sides. I marked and cut out holes for the hinges and the clasp to accommodate for them. This material has some foiling in it, but what it looks like doesn't matter very much as it will be covered by paint. To attach it, however, I used some matte medium, sort of using the decoupage method of putting a layer under and then another one over to fully seal it to the painted wood. I'm not so great at measuring and cutting precisely, but I made sure that the overhang was on the edges and I just simply snipped off any excess. I had a little bit of the mesh material left, so I decided to add it to the ends of the top in areas that I thought the plain background might peek through, just to continue the motif. To make the shape of the box a little bit more interesting, I'm going to add some plain cotton string to the edges. I just used a generous bead of PVA glue and I'm just pressing the string into it, carefully making sure that it's right at the edge. I think such small details can have a big impact. Sometimes it's just about using materials in unconventional ways. As you can see, when it's dried, that string fully saturated with PVA is solid. This is a piece of a broken hairband. I thought it would be such a shame to just throw it away. It gave me the idea to use it as the center of a floral cluster and to go through my stash and find all the broken or mismatched flowers and leaves I could find. Things in loud colors that I didn't like, and unite them into eventually something beautiful. I didn't have a solid plan beyond the cluster. I just heated up my hot glue gun and started gluing things down, working with the shapes offered by my mismatched flowers and leaves, making things fit and exclusively focusing on shape and form, ignoring color or material. For example, the leaves I used were basically large sequins that I've had in my stash forever, even debated getting rid of them as I could never see using them. They're just shiny and childish and not in my style. But finally they found a use in this project. I like the idea that all the little ugly things got to have a chance to become something beautiful in this. A lot of the little flowers I'm using are either defective or have only one or two of them, or I just simply hate the color. I believe most crafters can relate to this. We hold on to everything that has the potential of becoming something one day, and sometimes a project like this comes along and it finally feels worth it to have held on to them for years. Now I did use some nicer small flowers that I actually like to fill in unsightly gaps and bring a bit of cohesion with repeating elements. At this stage, completely ignoring the colors, I am pleased with the shape. So I just painted everything white to make it a bit less offensive. I also went over the other areas with the mesh material as it needed to go back to the original white. I wanted all the underlying colors to completely disappear, so I kept adding coats of white over and over, reaching into the nooks and crannies until everything was plain and the same. I knew because of the deep texture it was going to be really hard to paint shadows, so I opted for a spray stain. I know it looks very dark, but it dries a lot lighter, and it being so liquid, it allows for the color to flow into those deep grooves and all the textures. I wanted to go for a look that was reminiscent of old weathered stone. This is what it looked like when it was dry. There is cohesion, but it was definitely missing something. So I turned to my trusty gold acrylic paint and just rubbed it onto the surface, hoping that this will bring it to life. It definitely made it look a bit better, but no matter how much I looked at it, I just had to face the fact that I hated it. So instead of giving up on it, I decided to pivot. I chose some pastel blue and green colors that I thought would go well together, but I realized they were so translucent. It was going to take me 70,000 layers, and I did not have the patience for that. So I chose two other more opaque colors and I just started covering everything with the blue and the green, kind of mixing them on my brush, painting on variations from blue to green in a hopefully smooth mix. The first coat looked quite rough, I'm not gonna lie, so I had to do a few more, but not as many as if I started with the actual pastels. I did end up using the pastels I originally wanted anyway, just as a highlight instead, sparingly, after everything has been thoroughly repainted. I definitely think this was the right move. It makes the shapes stand out more and the sort of sculptural relief work is a little bit more evident. To finish it off, I'm going to go back to the gold paint that I did like, and this time with a higher contrast, it does look so much better. I'll never get tired of the magic a little touch of metallic paint can do to a project. It's especially satisfying here when I get to the top of the flower cluster and the shapes become even more visibly dimensional as the light catches those high points. It's just delicious to me. I actually added some extra gold paint with the brush on the closure thing, as with so many coats of paint it's become quite grungified, and I think this made it look a little bit better. Now happy with the exterior, I have to deal with the interior, because of course white just won't cut it anymore. I found some felt scraps in matching colors. I didn't have enough of either to have a complete lining, so I'm going to use them in combination, which I think works, sort of reflecting the blue and the green melding together on the outside. I cut out strips of the green for the interior walls, and I cut out ovals from the blue for the top and bottom. To get the right shape for that though, I just used a scrap of paper and sort of forced it inside into the corners and drew a line to mark where the edges would be. Uncrumpled the paper and cut out a template for it. If I traced the outside, it would have been too big and I would have had such a hard time scaling it down to the right size. This just made it a little bit easier. I used my scissors very carefully, knowing that I didn't have any spare felt if I made a big mistake. To attach the lining, I just used some PVA glue. There's a Goldilocks zone of using enough glue to have a permanent bond on the entire surface and not using so much that it saturates and seeps through, as I want to preserve the soft blushness of the felt for the interior. Having the felt lining makes the box more practical to use. It reduces noise and it cushions a little bit if you put small objects inside, like dice or maybe jewelry. In any case, I think this is a matching finish. What do you think about this project? Did you prefer the old stone look with the white before I decided to repaint? Or do you agree with me that this has led to a better outcome? I would love to hear your opinions in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to press the like button and consider subscribing to my channel. I upload a new crafty video every week. I'll leave you to enjoy the close-ups. Thank you for watching. I hope you're having a nice day. Bye.